All right, welcome. Sorry for the late start this morning. Piedmont Hills, the third time the power has gone out this year. This is, I think, might be a record for us. But thank you for for hanging in there and like waiting for us. I appreciate it. So last night we had the information night for seniors. And so I think some of you are already starting to put questions in the chat, which is great. This is our time that if you had questions left over from last night, if you want to ask them or things, because we started doing these because I would always like sit through a parent presentation and then like when it was over, be like, oh, I should have asked that question. Now I have a question. So that's why we do these follow-up the next morning. So let's go ahead and get started with the questions that are already in the chat. What GPA should we put in the UC app? Do we put the weighted GPA from the senior status sheet or the unweighted A through G? Sorry, I lost it. Shown on the grad inventory report.
You want to take that, Chan, too, or? So I don't know that they actually enter a specific GPA on the application. I know that students do enter their courses and grades as they're doing the application. And for example, I know with the CSU app, they enter their courses and grades, and then it'll give out a weighted GPA for students. The GPA that was listed in the letter that we sent home, or the graduation status letter, it did indicate students' weighted GPA, but that is included up until a certain point, and there might be a few things that might be incorrect with those, but just to give students kind of a general idea of what that weighted GPA looks like.
Is the counselor request the form same as the school report request form? Do counselors only report academic to colleges?
So with the school request or the school form, it is, if I'm understanding the question correctly, with private colleges and universities, students have to have the counselor fill out a portion of that application. And the information that we report is with their graduating class size, class rank. We do report on students' academics, their extracurricular activities, personality characteristics, things like that. And so we do request students to give some input to us to help facilitate that process. And to do that, we have them fill out a Google form, which is, that's that counselor request form that we were referring to last night. Jill, I don't know if you want to add anything.
I'm sorry, I joined late. So hello, everyone. I'm Jill Shootman. For some reason, since we've had the power come back on, I can't get on Zoom. So I'm joining in Miss Nguyen's office. And so I think you did a great job answering. Thank you.
When do we need to submit transcripts of the junior college? And do we need to send each school one per UC and for CSU? So I'm assuming that means they took classes at a junior college and the transcript from the junior college.
Definitely. Give me to take that. So you send transcripts when they're requested. And so many schools only request a final transcript. And so for UCs and CSUs, if they only request a final transcript, that means that by then you've selected your campus and you may only have to send the community college and Piedmont transcript to that one school. If a school asks you to send transcripts early, you may have to send the community college and Piedmont Hills transcripts multiple times or to different schools. And so it really depends. That's why they will have to-do lists. They'll send emails. Many of them have a portal where you can log in and check what are the to-dos for that campus. So you send a transcript when it's requested. And again, for many campuses, it's just that final transcript and they will ask for it June, July, and you'll send just to that campus that you have selected. For the private schools, we do upload a transcript in the common application. So your counselor will upload a transcript in, like when we first do our our school report. And then if that's soon, we will also upload a middle of the year transcript for those Common App schools as well. The only transcript the student is required to do is the final transcript for whatever college they choose.
Okay, thank you. Will school provide ranking on the transcript, or is it stated on the counselor school report?
So it used to be on the graduation inventory. The district has decided to remove it from the graduation inventory. I am checking in to see if it can be added back. If it's not added back quickly, we can actually look that up for students. And so one thing we told them during our senior presentations was if they are applying to a school that requires them to report it, and that's really only out of state potentially or private schools, we can look it up for them when they come to the Common App workshop this Thursday. So UCs don't require it, CSUs don't require it, neither do community colleges. So it'd really only be for students that are applying to private schools or out-of-state schools. And they should be coming to our workshop this Thursday when we go over how to fill out that application, the common application, and we're happy to look up their ranking at that time.
Okay, welcome, Ms. Amandor. The Common App does ask for GPA and ranking. Do we put the cumulative unweighted 9 through 12 grade GPA?
Yes, that is the one we recommend you put for Common App. And so Common App, it's difficult because so many different campuses, I think it's 1,000 campuses use that one application. And so they may all have different ways that they calculate GPA for admissions purposes. Some might use 9th grade, some may not use 9th grade. Some may weight GPAs, some may not weight GPAs. And so once you apply, the college is going to recalculate your GPA however they choose to do so for their admissions process. And so for now, what I would recommend you put is your cumulative GPA. And on our form, that is unweighted. It will ask you, is that unweighted or weighted? So students would check the box that is unweighted. And then again, the campuses will actually recalculate however they see fit.
Do you need to submit the grade from the community college at the application time?
Anyone else can jump in anytime if you'd like.
So
They're probably tired of hearing from me, but
that's okay. So students should report all courses and grades that they have taken and earned throughout their high school experience. And so, for example, any courses or coursework that was completed at Piedmont Hills, students would report that on their applications. If they took a course during the summertime at community college or elsewhere, they would want to make sure that they report that course, that institution, and that grade as well.
Okay. Do we send the transcript for the 9th through 11th grade after submitting UC and Common App? The final transcript after senior school year is over, and then the final transcript after the senior year is over.
So no, typically students do not send a transcript and unless it's requested for some reason, but they would not send a transcript until they have decided, for example, where they're going to attend, and that would be at the end of their senior year. Typically, when they're doing their applications through their senior year, a lot of times they're self-reporting those courses and grades that they have taken and earned throughout high school. In some rare cases, a college or university might reach out to a student and ask them to submit a transcript, and at that time, then they would, but usually they don't do that until the very end.
And I think that's why it's so important to read your email. So I know my students sometimes admit they don't check their email. They especially don't remember to check junk or spam. And so a lot of information that comes from colleges, because they're sending it out to so many people, it gets flagged as spam. And so they're still held responsible for whatever's being asked of them in that email. So one way a parent could really help is to encourage the, checking email daily, making sure you're checking your spam or junk. If you know that particular campus has a portal to check to-dos, encourage them to log in, once a week, every couple of days into that portal and make sure they're not missing anything on their to-do list.
Yeah. If there's anything you guys as parents can teach your kids, it's to read their email. Just as the school, we send out a lot of information too, and the kids, they just don't read it. Just know that information that I put in the parent newsletter, we have also emailed to the kids. So if I for example, the SAT stuff that I sent out and it was in the parent newsletter this past week, I also sent that to the students. So if you see that as a parent, tell your child, hey, check your email. There's something important on there that you need to see. Okay. Is it better to put undeclared major for UC applications based on your experience?
Yeah, I can answer that
Okay.
question. Counselor went on to so many counselor conference, and we keep hearing from the admissions experts is that there's no advantage to put undecided, and they really encourage students to put a major if they already know what they want to do. And some students think that they're gonna put undecided to be able to get in, and then later on change to the major that of their dream, of their interest, and that's not the case. If you only put undecided, if you really undecided and don't know what you're gonna major yet, and but then when you already know, just put your major. Anyone want to add something? Do you want to?
Yes, I mean, I agree with Chan too. And then also even sometimes those undeclared is even an area that can be also impacted, or a lot of students, apply as undeclared as well. So
that may be something to look at, is what is the change of major policy at that campus before you commit, especially if a student is a bit uncertain what it is they want to major in. And so, yeah, a lot of campuses have some strict practices around change of major because they have had students misuse that undeclared or undecided as a way to get into the campus and try and then scoot over to the major of their choice. And so we don't encourage that. We'd really want students to be able to study what it is they're passionate about. So if they already know what they're passionate about, don't miss out on the opportunity of finding a campus that can offer you a spot, because you might get in as undecided or undeclared and then may not be competitive enough later to switch to that major, and you miss the opportunity to study what you wanted to study. So if you know, I would put down the major. If you truly don't know, then you might need to go undeclared or undecided. But as Ms. Miller-Cody just said, it can be competitive as a major itself. So, don't want to misuse it.
And for those who maybe have two major that they both interested, they may want to put in a minor, a major and a minor.
Next question, will you provide students ranking based on weighted or unweighted GPA? Go ahead. I think I know the answer to this one.
You go ahead. Do you want to?
I would say it's unweighted because Eastside doesn't weight GPAs.
That is correct. It is unweighted. We don't have
Yes.
any way to know their weighted GPA because we don't weight GPAs in Eastside. So,
Yeah, so their rank is based on unweighted. And then to follow up, typically we only need to send a transcript at one college when we decide to attend. Yes, that is true. Typically it's the final transcript after they graduate, and they're sending that to the college that they decided to attend. All right, what is the acceptance rate from UC from our school for last year? Do we know that?
we know that's a little bit harder to know. I know where students chose to attend, but whether or not they got in but didn't choose to attend and are deciding to transfer, or they're deciding to go to a private school. So I hope that data is going to be a little bit easier to gather now that we're switching over to the new program called Cal Colleges, for us to track where our students got in. And so again, I don't know that what we have would be as helpful, because it would be where they decided to go, which doesn't necessarily mean that they didn't get into other campuses. I think what would probably be better, and I'm happy to share the link, is to look at the freshman profiles for who got in this year. So if you're wanting to see what are my chances of getting into a certain college, you can look at the averages for the fall class this year and see, do I match those averages? And so that's probably a little bit better to look at, because that would also be much larger scale. And so let me see. I don't know if we can add in the link to the freshman profiles. So we'll get that in the chat in just a moment. I don't think I can do them because I can't.
Yeah. And then does UCCSU look at the 9 through 12 GPA, or just 10 through 11?
They look at 10th and 11th in summers. And so 9th grade grades are only they look to see, did they meet the A to G requirements? And so they do look to see that you pass, for example, your English class in 9th grade, or maybe your math class. But in terms of the GPA calculation they don't use 9th grade grades. So it would be 10th and above. So they don't have senior grades either. So when UCs and CSUs make their initial decision, they're basing it off of that 10th and 11th grade GPA, but they can revoke an offer if you let your grades slip in your senior year. So you have to be really careful senior year, but they don't have the senior year grades when they make their initial decision. So just 10th and 11th typically.
Okay, can you put a second major in the UC app? If they want a double major?
It usually depends on the campus, what they allow. That would be a good question to ask at the UC application workshop. I think a lot of times they would recommend, and they even told us this during the counselor conference, they do recommend students do a major and a minor versus two majors. But that would be a great question to ask at the UC workshop. And also if you want to know the same for the CSU, which campuses allow a double major, and what are the pros and cons of double major versus a major and a minor.
Okay, do we include the PE courses as part of the GPA?
For the cumulative, yes, that would be everything would be in the cumulative GPA, which is the one that you would report on Common App for private schools. For the UCs and CSUs, no, they only use the A to G courses in their GPA calculation. So that would exclude things like PE, teacher's aid. Really, that's about it. Most of our classes do count for A to G.
Okay, when is the UC workshop?
I think the UC workshop is on September 28th, right? Yes, September 28th at 2:15 in the library.
Okay, so that's next Thursday. So this Thursday is the Common App workshop, and then next Thursday is the UC workshop. So that's after school when we get out early on Thursdays. So we only need to send, oh, Jill, I just let you into the Zoom. So we only need to send community college transcripts to the school we decide to attend. I'm sorry, my chat box is jumping all over the place. As well, not at the application time. Yeah, so you would report the grade from the community college, but the transcript you report at the end, like to the school that you're going to, right?
Yes.
Awesome. Can the parents attend the workshops for the Common App and UC apps?
You absolutely can. What might be nice is if you register as well. So on the presentation, there were links to register. That way, if all of a sudden for the first time ever, we are having a huge parent turnout, we know that. So we have enough space, and we may even need to switch it to Zoom if it's really overwhelming and we can't fit everyone in the library. So absolutely. But if you could also fill that out just so we can anticipate more people coming. And there's a link on each of the slides. So the slide that said UC workshop, there's a link to register, CSU link to register. So all of them have a link.
And then Jill, you just added the UC freshman profile. Do you want me to click on this and then I can share my screen? We can look at it real quick. Hold on. Oh, where'd you guys go? Share screen. Oops. All right. So this is so how does this work?
So if you scroll down, it'll have the admit data by campus. And then if you click on any one of the UCs, it will show their profile for the fall class. All right. And it should be up to date with this fall class.
Yeah, I think it's up to date. I checked last week.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're gonna scroll down. They let you know the average GPA right there.
Okay. Makes you a little sick to your stomach when you see it, for sure. But this would be a good way. So rather than just checking, the few students who got in from Piedmont, you don't necessarily know their data. So you may know that we had X number of students get in, but what did their profile look like? So this would actually be better because it shows you, how many are they admitting? What is the average GPA? Some campuses give a little bit more information than others. So you can see, and probably obvious, but it is a weighted GPA. So if you're wondering how it's going above the 4.0, those are weighted GPAs.
And we usually remind students, when you look at the GPA there, do not panic. College consider review student as a whole. You are not numbers, you are not a transcript. So as students know, and we share with them there are 13 different factors to consider, especially for UC campus. So GPA is only one of the 13 factors.
All right, thank you. Okay, let's see. And then the registration form for the parents, where is the registration form?
For the different workshops?
Yeah.
It's on the slide. Well, it's in a couple of places.
Mhm.
It's on the important dates for seniors, and it's also on each of the slides. So I can put, why don't I put the important dates for seniors in the chat, because that one then would have everything on one.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I will.
It's also on all of our presentations that we post on our counseling webpage. If you go to the home page of our school, go to counselings, and there will be presentation. So all of the presentation is on there, and the link for the workshop is on the senior presentation.
And so the question, are the GPA posted on the website, and I'm assuming that's the website that we just showed with the freshman data, are those that the UCs are posting, is that from the 11th, 10th and 11th grades?
Correct. 10th and 11th grade.
Is there a difference in the term of weighted GPA calculation for an A grade versus an A minus?
No. So A+, A minus for the UCs and CSUs are all worth 4 points, or if it's an AP course, 5 points. So no difference in GPA.
Okay, to enter classes taken each year on the Common App, do we put the exact name shown on the grad inventory report?
Yes.
Because the name of the class is what we've reported to the UC doorways, right? Like that's what we've said the classes are that we offer here.
Yes, you want it to match your transcript. So later on, when they receive your transcript to check and make sure it's accurate, you want to make sure that the two match. That also is true if anyone has attended other schools besides Piedmont Hills, please list it the way it was on the original transcript. So whatever transcript you came in with, especially if it's international, you want to list it exactly how it was listed on their transcript. Even if we have transcribed it differently, you want to list it the way it was on the original transcript. And we can always help out if there's anything that's confusing or complicated. Just have your student come see us. We'll help them.
I just want to add to that a little bit too, and then that would be like for Common App. I know that for the CSUs and UCs, as students are typing in the course names, a lot of times that course title will auto-populate. And so sometimes students can tell whether or not there might be a problem the way they're entering a course on, and this is pertaining to UCs and CSUs, as they're typing that in. If it doesn't auto-populate, it could be because maybe they type something in wrong. Like one that comes to mind is our ERWC class for the CSU application.
Great. Thank you, Jill, for sharing the important dates. I'm going to share my screen real quick, just in case you guys are like on your phone or something and you can't see that. I'm going to, I'll link this also on, well, I'll put this out. I'll send it out when I send out the Zoom today, but then I'll also put it on the newsletter so that it just is permanently living there. So that parents, if you need to find it, you can find it on the newsletter.
And we'll add the community college panel. That's the only one that's missing. I just want to make sure that all the community colleges have confirmed before we put that date. But that's anticipated for January 18th, and that'll be on here soon.
Great. Sharing again. Lost where I was. I mean, I'm assuming this means all UCs will calculate their own weighted GPA, since we only put the unweighted A through G GPA on the application. The college themselves will weight it, right?
Yes, the college will. So the GPA that we merged onto your senior status letter is just for your use to kind of know approximately where you stand. But when you apply to colleges, they do recalculate your GPA. And so they will recalculate it with however, UC should be consistent. So basically, again, it's the 10th and 11th grade, it's A to G courses, it's those extra points if you took AP. There are some campuses, campuses are required to cap at 8 extra points. There are some campuses that also choose to do a second calculation with as many extra points as students have. And so whatever they choose to use for their admissions process, they will recalculate.
Okay, for the Common App, when we enter Math 3 and Math Analysis classes, there is a drop-down menu as to what kind of math, geometry, trig, algebra, what should we choose?
For Math 3, I would put algebra. I can't remember if it says algebra 2 or just algebra. If it just says algebra, I would do that. For Math Analysis, I actually have my little student account that I create. Let me check and see what your choices are again. So maybe if we skip that one and come back to it, I'll log in real quick.
Nice. So parents, other questions that you have? It sounds like from some of these questions that you guys are very entrenched in the college application process. I want to caution you and make sure your child's actually doing the application and you aren't doing it for them, because they are applying for college, right? So they should know how to do this themselves.
One thing that students do wrong is they forget to put their senior courses. And if they forget to put their senior courses, they're not eligible, especially because of that last English year. So that's one thing to maybe double check, because they have their transcript in front of them. Sometimes they will enter everything they see on their transcript as, you know, all the completed coursework, and they forget that senior year. It's not a ton, but we always have a couple each year, and they're in tears and they're having to try and appeal. So that might be something just to make sure that they include their senior year courses. If there's anything they're doing outside of their Piedmont Day, they could also list those as in progress. If there's anything they're taking second semester only, that would be planned. So just don't let them forget those in progress and planned courses, because each year we have a couple that do.
Okay, parents, we have about 10 more minutes. So if you have any last questions, while Ms. Shootman is looking up the Common App math question. I guess this is a good time to tell you what we'll be talking about next week. I just confirmed with Ms. Gunter, she's going to join us next week, and we will talk about anxiety. So that's a topic that we've talked about before, but when we talk about mental health concerns with our students, anxiety is our #1 concern. So that's a really important topic for parents to understand. Okay, after we apply for FAFSA, how do we have to submit the form or anything to each college we apply?
I can do that one. So actually on the FAFSA application, students will indicate the different colleges or universities that they plan to apply to. So they'll list those colleges or universities on there. Historically, they had an option to add up to, like, I think 10 schools. And so if they were applying to more than 10, what they would do is they would submit their original FAFSA application with their 10 listed. Once they get confirmation, that has been submitted, they can later go back in and edit their FAFSA application to swap out some schools and put additional ones in. So that's a workaround if they have more than 10 schools that they're applying to. Excuse me. And then keep in mind, if students apply to any private colleges or universities, they might have additional information that students and families also need to provide.
Okay, and will the financial aid letter come with admission acceptance letter?
I believe those two usually come separately or independently of each other, or students might also have the information listed on their student portal. So as they apply to different colleges or universities, they'll be given login credentials or email information how they can access their student portal. And a lot of that information will be also housed there on their student portal.
Jill, did you find an answer to the math question?
Yeah. So one thing, and I'll cover this when we meet on Thursday, is that because the counselor uploads the transcript, for a lot of schools, they don't make you hand enter your courses on the Common App. And so your grades and courses. And so for many schools, it will say not required. So when they're in their Common App tab at the bottom, it will say number of schools requiring the grade entry. And if it says 0, you don't even need to list that because again, they're getting that transcript immediately because the counselor uploads it. If you have one or more schools that do require you to hand enter all of your coursework and grades, then there is the option for math other, and then you can type in the name of our course. What we might want to do is we have Santa Clara coming with us this Thursday to present. And so we could ask them, do they prefer that we do math other and type the specific name of our course, or should we just find the best matching course? Because one thing that's hard, for example, is there is pre-calculus, there's trigonometry. Those are 2 different things to choose, but our math analysis is both. So would it be better to do math other as the subject and then type in math analysis? I would assume yes, but let's check with Santa Clara when they come out this Thursday and see if they agree or if they would prefer that we just find the best matching category. But again, double check because many campuses don't even require you to hand enter all of that information. And if it says 0 colleges requiring, you could bypass that whole area because they'll have access to your transcript from the very start because of our submission.
Great. All right, any other questions, parents? Well, thank you for coming today. Hopefully this was helpful. I know this is a super stressful time, the whole college application process. I have long said that this semester, like the first semester of senior year, is probably the most stressful. And I'm with you. So don't, you'll get through it. It's okay. The second semester of senior year is a lot less stressful as long as they're on track for graduating, of course. One couple last minute questions. Do we have to finish the FAFSA before we submit the application?
No. So the deadline for that, we're going to try and encourage you to be done by March 2nd, which is the traditional deadline. But because they're opening it later this year, they're, I believe, extending to April 2nd. And so, no, most students complete their college applications first, and then many of them don't have their FAFSA done until after that time. So no harm. You don't want to wait too long because it, take longer potentially to get the information from the colleges, but you do have until March 2nd or maybe even April 2nd this year to complete the FAFSA.
Okay. And then last question, teacher rec letter is to request each letter by ourselves. Not sure what that means. Do you guys get that question?
And tell me if I don't answer your question. A lot of students are asking, do we need to go up to the teacher in person and ask? I would definitely go in person and ask. I think that's the most polite, professional way. The other thing is some teachers they teach a lot of upperclassmen, so they may only be willing to do, 10 or 15, or they may have a cap on the number they can comfortably do. So you don't want to just invite them and not have had that conversation. So I would have them go and ask the teacher, also ask them, what information do you need from me in order to complete my recommendation? By when do you need it? Just to make sure that teacher is comfortable writing the recommendation and they haven't maybe overcommitted to other students and maybe best to find someone else so they can give you more time.
Okay, snuck in one question under the wire. Does the school send the transcript to the UCs directly?
Only if you order it on parchment.com. And so we will make sure that our seniors are reminded. I always do something around. We do senior check-ins by Zoom. You'll hear that. I believe we do one in like January, another one in March or April. So when you hear that we have a Zoom senior check-in, please have them come because we do remind them of all of these things, including the reminder that they have to order that final transcript on Parchment. They have to really not be paying attention to miss that, because I think I even had a little note in their diploma last year with a reminder. So they're reminded a million times to send their final transcript using the website Parchment. Otherwise, we don't send. I have no idea where they've committed to going. That's why they have to order the transcript on that website. And then our registrar will send it as soon as the grades are final, knowing that they have to meet the deadlines, whatever their deadline might be, June or July.
Okay, one last question for real. And then you guys, if you have any additional questions, the counselors are here and available. You can email your questions. This isn't your only chance. Where do teachers submit the recommendation letter to? They also submit on the Common App.
Exactly. So they will also have a Common App login. So when the student invites them on, so when student goes into Common App and they invite us, they enter our email address. When they enter our email address, that will send us an email that we've been they're requesting a recommendation from us, and then we either already have an account, or if we don't, we create an account based on that. So yes, your teacher will have a Common App account if they've agreed to be your recommender, and that is where they submit. And then every school that you apply to would be able to have access to that information. And so just, we're all on Common App together, all of us. And one thing to note in terms of emailing with your questions, we're always happy to help you with your questions. If your questions are related to financial aid, we haven't been trained yet for this year. They're revamping the application, and our training is probably October. I think it's October. So if it's a financial aid question that isn't urgent, I would wait, because we don't want to give you outdated information. The other thing we haven't had a chance to go to yet is the CSU Counselor Conference isn't until October. So we'll make sure that we have all the right answers by the CSU application workshop, but we could also be giving dated information for the CSU. So I think if you come to the workshops, then that's when we know for sure we've had a chance to get all of the updates for this year. Before those workshops, there's a chance we still haven't been trained as counselors with anything that's new for the year.
Okay. All right. Thank you guys for coming. I'm sorry. I apologize for our late start, but thank you for your patience with us this morning, and hopefully our power stays on for the rest of today. All right. Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.